What's the key to having well-behaved children? Countless scholars have pored over Don Bosco's teaching method to find the answer to this question. But I think Professor Plinio Corrêa de Oliveira, the great Brazilian Catholic thinker, described it very succinctly. He gave these comments during an informal lecture in 1967 and explained why the majority of Don Bosco's oratory boys were so saintly and well-behaved. The Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Subscribe for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Professor Plinio began, "It is indisputable that the personality of Don Bosco's mother influenced his formation. This woman, widowed at the age of 29, deeply marked the souls of her 3 children. She was poorly educated, but gifted with rare common sense. Her sound judgment, great piety, devotion, and firmness made her an exemplary educator. Work was a constant obligation in her home. Margaret subjected her children to all the activities of the house and fields. The children began their day with prayer from dawn in the summer and even earlier in the winter. Life is too short, said their mother, to miss the best part of it. Fatigue was ignored. Meals were always extremely frugal. They slept on the floor at night. When John goes to the seminary later, he takes the prescribed blanket with him. But during the vacations, his mother will make him put it away carefully, considering its smoothness useless and harmful. I must point out that Don Bosco's family was from the north of Italy, around Turin, a very cold area. In this way, she prepared her children for life, according to what she always said. We are soldiers of Christ, always in arms, always in the presence of the enemy, and we must win." Here you see the description of the strong woman of the gospel who gets up, starts working early, and fulfills all her duties. She's so priceless that you have to go to the ends of the earth to find anything that compares. It's profoundly different from Christian democratic sociology, according to which anyone who suffers from hunger or cold can't lead a spiritual life. So the beginning of spiritual life consists of giving food, a bed, and a good blanket for the cold. Only afterward can we begin to talk about spiritual life. In the case of Mama Margaret, you see precisely the opposite. The house is so poor that people have no beds and sleep on the floor. They have no blanket in an area where the winter can be tremendous. Don Bosco bought a blanket to go to the seminary as required by its rules, but his mother wouldn't allow him to take his blanket home to use it. They worked hard, and their food was very frugal. It's a poor life, but one sanctified by a spirit of renunciation and sacrifice that led to forming a man with a powerful physique, resistant to all kinds of work. One can see what a sham Christian democracy is by claiming that soft living conditions are indispensable for the apostolate to take hold. Instead, austerity is necessary. But keep in mind, Don Bosco greatly struggled to provide wonderful food, clothing, and blankets for his boys, but his emphasis was first and foremost to save their souls, making them good Catholic gentlemen with the spirit of sacrifice. But I say more. This spirit of sacrifice also needs to be taught in affluent and high-ranking families. That was the case in Europe until some time ago. High-class young people, mostly male, were brought up in a rough life. I remember reading about the history of the Duke of Alençon or the Duke of Nemours. I don't remember exactly, but one of these princes was exiled from France and lived in a castle on the banks of the Thames. Do you know how they woke up in the morning? Everyone got up and jumped out of the window into the freezing Thames. That austere life forms a person and prevents all kinds of laziness. If the rich people in our civilization had known austerity, much decadence would have been avoided. Despite a lot of work establishing 2 religious congregations, the Salesians and the Salesian Sisters, erecting churches, and preparing distant missions, Don Bosco devoted much of his days and nights to writing. He served the church, fought error, and comforted souls with his pen. A man of his time, he quickly noticed the importance of the printing press. For 45 years, he penned works according to the needs of his time. Protestantism was launching crude attacks on the church in northern Italy. Don Bosco opposed Protestant propaganda with Catholic brochures. In 1883, with the first Catholic almanac in Europe, he responded to The Friend of the Home, which the Protestants distributed in bulk. Here you see his sense of current affairs. He wasn't a saint who lived in the clouds. Only cheap hagiography shows us saints that do that. Don Bosco was a man who knew the problems of his time and fought the enemies of his time. Today, there's much talk about doing Catholic works, but little mention of writing Catholic books. Why? Because they give more importance to the economy rather than the spiritual. No one understood the need for Catholic works better than Don Bosco. However, he was even more of a writer than a doer when we look closer. This proves that, in the mind of this immense champion of the Church, intellectual action was worth more than charitable action. St. John Bosco faced incredible difficulties in carrying out his plans. The year 1876 was one of the most painful for him. The Piedmont ministers, already at war with the Pope, tried to catch the Holy Founder at fault. They accused him of maintaining a secret correspondence with Pius IX and the bishops. They multiplied searches in his house and sought at any price to find signs of a conspiracy. One day, Don Bosco lost patience and went to the Count of Cavour, the prime minister, and stated his intention of entrusting Cavour with the care of all his orphans. This unexpected proposal made the minister, if not end the persecutions, at least make them more discreet. Before I answer the main question of this episode by a final story, I'd just like to say that if you're in need of spiritual help, you can enroll in our Saturday Mass intentions for the promoters of St. John Bosco by clicking on the link in the description below or by clicking on the Mass logo at the end of the video. A minister of the Queen of England visiting the Oratory of St. Francis de Sales in Turin was ushered into a large room where 500 young orphans were studying. He couldn't help but marvel at that crowd of students observing a strict silence, even though no one was watching over them. His admiration was even greater when he learned that not a single word of discipline was to be regretted, nor a single occasion to punish or to threaten punishment during the entire year. How is it possible to achieve such silence, such perfect discipline? He asked, and turning to his secretary, he ordered him to write down the answer. "Sir," replied the establishment's superior, "the means we use cannot be used in your country." "Why is that?" the minister asked. "Because they are secrets revealed only to Catholics." "And what are these secrets?" "Frequent confession, communion, and the holy sacrifice of the Mass, every day, uprightly attended." "Well, you're right," said the minister. "We lack such means of education, but aren't there others?" "If we don't make use of the elements that religion provides," the superior replied, "we have to resort to threats and punishment." The English minister kept quiet, but assured us he would report what he had learned. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you'd like to enroll, just click on the Mass logo. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you. Happy Easter. Let's go, boy.